Out of all of Elden Ring's main attributes, there are 5 of them that directly affect the amount of damage that the player character will do: strength, dexterity, intelligence, faith, and arcane. As for the way Elden Ring calculates damage, it is both complicated and convoluted, so we will be dealing with that in its own specific video. For now, in the present video, we will focus on the characteristics and details of strength, one of my favorite stats. Elden Ring defines strength as the attribute required to wield heavy armaments. It also boosts the attack of strength-scaling weapons, and it affects your physical defense. So we can see that strength affects the requirement of some weapons, it affects the scaling of some weapons, and it affects our character's physical defense. Let's go over these. The first thing to talk about is the most basic but also the most important one. Strength is the stat required in order to wield the big weapons in the game. Great swords, great hammers, great axes, colossal swords, and colossal weapons are all types of armaments that have strength as their primary requirement. You need this stat in order to use these weapons effectively. As an example, let's use the great sword, a colossal sword based on the weapon Guts uses in Berserk. Since the days of the Dragon Bone Smasher, there has always been some kind of tribute to this sword. As you can see, the game tells you that in order to use this sword effectively, you need to have a strength stat of 31. If you do not meet this requirement, the weapon will deal heavily reduced damage. So far, this is simple. That said, in the Souls series, strength has always had a special characteristic that makes it unique, and which helps the player meet the requirement. Elden Ring, much like its predecessors, allows the player to use every weapon with either 1 or 2 hands. This unlocks additional moveset options, but also, and more importantly, it gives the player a bonus to their strength stat. Specifically, two-handing a weapon also gives you a 50% bonus to your strength. For example, if you have a base strength of 20 and you two-hand your weapon, you get a bonus of 50% additional strength added to your stat. 50% of 20 is 10, meaning that you get an additional 10 levels of strength. In this case, your total strength would be 30. This bonus is not represented in your stats page, but the game does all of the calculations in the background. This affects both the stat requirements to wield weapons as well as the potential damage scaling that the weapon can receive. Let's go back to the greatsword example. As we mentioned before, it has a strength requirement of 31 to be able to use it. But thanks to this special mechanic that strength enjoys, we can actually use this armament with only 21 levels of strength if we two-hand it. 50% of 21 is 10.5. Meaning that when we two-hand the greatsword, our strength goes from 21 to 31.5, which is enough to use the armament efficiently. This special mechanic has just allowed us to use this weapon 10 levels earlier, and that is very valuable. As I mentioned before, weapon scaling is a complicated subject. It is made up of multiple concepts and various calculations. I will be covering all of this in detail in a separate video. For now, the basic notion with strength is that weapons that have strength scaling will have their damage increased as you level up your strength stat. Damage scaling is determined on a weapon per weapon basis, meaning that each specific weapon has different conditions and each will show different data. I ran the numbers for multiple weapons in order to test the data, and it is possible to establish different soft caps for the stat. Let's use one of my favorite weapons in the game as an example, the longsword. Please take a look at these charts. On top, you will see the correlation between your strength stat and the total AR of a heavy longsword plus 25. In other words, what is the total AR of this weapon on each level of strength? On the bottom, you will see the correlation between the strength stat and the AR increase of the weapon. In other words, how much actual AR we get each time that we level up our strength. As always, it is important to look at the shape of the charts. On the top, you see that the damage increase is more pronounced in the earlier levels, but As you get to the later levels of strength, the increase begins to flatten out. As we have talked about with every other stat, this is the work of diminishing returns. The more strength you have, the less you get from each level. How much less exactly? Well, let's take a look at the bottom chart. As you can see, the earlier levels give either 6 or 7 AR per level. This is a lot. But then, at about level 20, the increase drops to either 4 or 3 AR per level. This drop marks the first soft cap of the skill at level 20. Then, we continue to get about the same AR, 3 or 4 points, all the way up to level 55, where it drops again to either 2 or 3 AR per level. This is the second soft cap at level 55. And then, we continue to get either 2 or 3 AR per level until we hit level 80. From then on, we only get 1 AR at most, so this is the third and final soft cap at level 80. Past this level, it is not worthwhile to level up strength, as the returns we get are too few for the investment that we make. Please remember, scaling is complicated. This data that I am showing you is specifically for a heavy longsword plus 25. Other weapons have different scaling, so they have different data. That said, the shape of the chart is always roughly the same, so we are able to establish 3 soft caps: level 20, level 55, and level 80. One of the most important reasons why strength is a very special stat in Elden Ring is because it is the only stat in the game that can go past the hard cap of level 99. Indeed, much like Super Saiyan 3, this is the stat that goes even further beyond. It is possible for a character to have more than 99 strength. The way to do it is easy and something that we have already spoken about. You need to use your weapon with 2 hands. Like we went over earlier, if you 2-hand your weapon, you get a bonus of 50% to your strength stat. This applies to strength scaling too. So, when you 2-hand your weapon, you also get the additional damage scaling from the bonus, just like you would if you would have actually leveled up your strength. The best part of this bonus is that it does not stop at level 99, it goes past it. For example, if you level up your strength to the final soft cap, level 80, and then you 2-hand your weapon, you will get the 50% bonus on your damage scaling. 50% bonus of 80 is 40, plus the original 80, we get a total of 120. This means that you would get damage scaling just like if you were to have a strength stat of level 120. If we continue with the example, we can level up strength to 99, and then we can 2-hand our weapon, which will result in the game giving us the additional 50% strength bonus to our weapon scaling. 50% of 99 is 49.5, meaning that we would have a total strength scaling based off level 148.5. This will probably be rounded down to level 148 strength. It is important to understand that diminishing returns continue to apply with this mechanic. As a result, the amount of AR that we would get is still limited, but it is welcome. From my testing, weapons usually get anywhere between 50 to 80 additional AR when I 2-hand the weapon at strength level 99. Obviously, this depends on the weapon. For example, the heavy longsword we were working with earlier has a total AR of 563 at level 99. If we 2-hand this weapon, the total AR increases up to 609. This represents the power of the weapon at level 148 strength. Of course, as soon as we stop 2-handing the weapon, we lose all additional power. In general, 2-handing a strength weapon past the normal limits can give us about 40 to 80 additional AR depending on the weapon. This is a really good increase, constituting anywhere from 5% to 10% increases in damage. That being said, getting this additional damage does require a lot of investment into strength. As with all things, when you are making a build, you will have to decide if spending these additional points into strength is worthwhile. Finally, strength also directly affects our physical defense. This is the most basic type of defense in the game and will protect us only from physical type damage, be it standard, slashing, piercing, or striking damage. The more strength we have, the more physical defense we will get, and that means we will take less damage from these sources. The rate of increase is as follows. We get an additional 0.33 physical defense from levels 1 to level 30. We get an additional 0.5 physical defense from levels 31 to 40. We get an additional 0.75 physical defense from 41 to 60. And we get an additional 0.25 physical defense from level 61 to 99. I am a simple man. I like to pick up a big weapon and deal big damage. 1 bonk, 2 bonks, jumping bonks, I love it all. It is an easy playstyle that anyone can take advantage of thanks to the great benefits of the strength stat. That being said, easy does not mean simple, and as we have seen, the strength stat hides special characteristics that make it more complex than what the surface can show. It is also the stat that supports the tank playstyle. Whether you like to block with a great shield, or with your face, if you want to mitigate damage, then strength is the way. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope I get to see you on the next one.